This is Radar for On the Radar Entertainment Blog coming at you with another edition of Movie Reviews and Observation number 176. Sorry for the delay. Life's been super busy, but we're going to get back on a scheduled routine where every single week I'll have watched 5 to 7 movies. I may not have time to watch a movie on days that I got to close down the restaurant that I work at, or have a chance to watch a movie on Friday with the Sabbath now starting at 4-ish, and they're having Shabbat dinners probably at 6-ish because of the clock being changed. So the first movie I watched was The Covenant with Jake Gyllenhaal, where I didn't know any actor. I may have recognized a few faces here and there, but I've watched a Guy Ritchie movie before about like an Italian mobster, like cleaning man or whatever it is, service. Hitman with Jason Statham, who I'm super obsessed with as one of my favorite action stars. But it was just horribly written. So I'm looking at it like I don't really know if I can trust Guy Ritchie to make these movies because some have been good. And you got to bear with it. It's about a 2-hour drama. And of course, the other week I was falling asleep in the movie and I was like, I got to stop. I got to get up and take a shower and get dressed and go where I'm going because this is a good enough movie. I don't want to sleep through it. So I stopped it and I finished the second half of the movie or the last 40 minutes. And I was like, credible storytelling. My friend who was in the military, who has been campaigning to get his translators over here and money to help bring them in because apparently a lot of people in this country are not happy that America is giving money to all other countries for whatever they need. But they promised the translators that they would get money and they'd get visas because then they're either killed or they're in hiding the rest of their life and we're leaving them hanging. I'm not here to get into politics. I'm just saying my friend who was in the military knows this issue very well, saw this movie and told me it was accurately, correctly portrayed in this movie. And it seems like Jake Gyllenhaal is a proponent of being in all these military movies. And he seems to be someone that you could look at and go, yeah, he could be someone who's charismatic and is a leader of men in the army and all the movies he was in. And it was more of an adventure, survival drama. Yeah, you got action with the gunfire and the shooting and with the good guys and the bad guys. But this is more of like pointing at you what the issue is and hopefully someone will fix the issue. So I'll say, really good movie. Then I watched Big George Foreman, and I wasn't alive when he boxed. I just knew him as the dude who sold grills. I know him in like pop culture if he's been referenced or put into cartoon, or he plays himself in a TV show or movie, or I watched Better Late Than Never, which was him and Terry Bradshaw, Jeff Dye the comedian, Captain Kirk, William Shatner, and the Fonz Henry Winkler traveling around the world, which was on for a few years. So obviously, I'm a pop culture guy and a sports guy, so I know who George Foreman is. I didn't watch boxing growing up because my dad watched it in the heydays of Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, you name it, back when it was something big. And even when I was a kid, Mike Tyson was a big-time boxer. But it's not a sport that's been super popular in the mainstream. UFC, WWE, fake wrestling, those have been more the quote-unquote fighting sports that have been more popular and people are into. And also with CTE and concussions with football and hockey, boxing is just pounding you in the face. So it's not been like the most mainstream accessible sport because it's also pay-per-view. So I don't know if this is like accurately told or whatnot. I know the things that he's been married a bunch and all of his kids are named George or Georgette. I obviously knew who Forrest Whitaker was. I'm not aware of the other actors, but I will tell you this guy, Chris Davis, so you don't confuse him with the former A's outfielder DH. He kind of looked like him, and he did a very good job. The guy playing a young Muhammad Ali, Sonny Lisner, all these other boxers, they were pretty good in how they looked at it and they acted. I thought, you know what? This was a really good biopic, teaching me about a guy that I didn't know much about except for him as his old version and not him in his prime when he was young, that he was a pastor, all these other things. I just thought it was really good. Again, bear with it, it's a 2-hour movie, but again, I'm going to tell you that biopics, superhero, action, adventure, science fiction movies like the one I mentioned, The Covenant, you want to stick through 2 hours. You don't want to stick through a 2-hour boring movie. Like, this was actually interesting. It's PG-13, not inappropriate. I liked it. But you're looking at a dude who's obsessive of watching sports, so I try to see every sports movie possibly made, even if it's about a sport that I don't care for or I know nothing about, which I don't know much about boxing. I have friends who have boxed. I know about boxing. I'm just not an expert. So I really enjoyed it. Some people may not have said it had been great, but I liked it. Then I was like, I need to watch a short movie. I've had a long, bad week. And the movie is Scott Conn, J.K. Simmons, and my guy Frank Grillo. It's called One Day as a Lion. Again, this is an action adventure. It's more of an action comedy. There's a lot of humor and dumb crap happening, like stupidity. And it was like, 80-something minutes. Virginia Madsen was in the movie. I've seen her before. I didn't really know anyone else. So the plot is Scott Conn apparently works with this like fat dude who works also for Frank Grillo. So they don't really say it. And supposedly he's been married, but he's divorced. And his ex-wife, is still in the picture, but she's interested in his boss. I don't know. It's really dumb and really stupid. So I would say it's probably the worst movie I watched this in the past couple of weeks. But then he's like told, if you want to help your son get a lawyer for something that was a miscommunication, but they still arrested him, and he's going to go to juvie and all this other stuff, that they need a lawyer because there's no bail. So he's like, well, we'll pay for the lawyer for your son if you go and murder J.K. Simmons, who supposedly has some sort of feud with Frank Grillo. Which, again, those two stories of their feud don't really care about this movie. What really matters is Scott Conn trying to get his son out of prison and his dumb wife not helping, and his former friend, who's now his like boss, is telling Frank Grillo, who's his real boss, that he killed someone by accident and it went awry, and he's like trying to save his son, but also not go to prison. So it's like, it's more about Scott Conn, and the other stories don't really matter because Frank Grillo wins in the end versus J.K. Simmons. Like, who matters? The other thing that made no sense was the waitress who was like, I had to move back to town. My mother's rich because she married a bunch of rich people and she's got this money. She's dying. Well, spoiler, she dies really quickly in the movie, so it's like, great. That was a waste of time. And like somehow the two of them like each other, Scott Conn and her, and it's just like, that's kind of forced chemistry. He's trying to like hold her hostage and then swindle money from her and her mother, but she wants the money from her mother. So it was like just bad writing. With, as I mentioned, Grillo, who's a really good actor, Conn, who's an overrated actor, but he's not bad, J.K. Simmons, who's a very good character actor who's now become way too famous, and obviously Virginia Madsen, who's barely in the movie, and the girl in the movie who's, pretending to be in a relationship with Scott Conn for the money, I've seen her before. She's not a bad actress. It's just probably the worst thing I watched this week. Then I watched 80 for Brady because, again, it's like 90-something minutes. It's a dumb comedy. It's not inappropriate. And you look at this movie and you're like, wow, look at all these women that are old. You got Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, Rita Moreno, Sally Field. Tom Brady was in the movie. Ron Funches was in the movie. The Guy Fieri played himself. Obviously, Billy Porter and Patton Oswalt were in the movie. So you had cameos by famous actors. You had famous people being themselves, like Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, Guy Fieri. So it's supposedly based on a true story of the friendship, so they obviously probably fudged a few things. But it's a nice story of lifelong friends supporting each other and being there through the good times and the bad times and doing anything possible to keep the good times rolling. Even like going to the Super Bowl to watch Tom Brady when he was on the Patriots and stuff. And you got 4 famous actresses who have done their things, like Sally Field, The Flying Nun, over the years, and a few other things. And obviously Rita Moreno has had a long career. Jane Fonda's had a long acting career, and so has Lily Tomlin. So they didn't go into this when they were young being like, we're gonna be in a movie about old ladies who love Tom Brady. Like, no. And even like Alex Moffat of SNL and Rob Corddry were playing 2 Boston disc jockeys and pretending to have Boston accents. They were pretty funny too. They accurately got that. So just a movie, go along for the fun ride, and you enjoy it. Then I watched Lastly Champion. It's supposedly it's a heartwarming story of a former minor league basketball coach who obviously has to do this. So I don't know if it's a true story, but apparently it's based off a Spanish movie. When you get Ernie Hudson in this movie, and you get yourself Cheech Martin, Caitlin Olsen, I think his name is Matt Cook, I'm not sure, but basically, Woody Harrelson, I've never been a huge fan of him, no matter if it's comedy, no matter if it's science fiction or drama, and I didn't really buy him as Carnage in the Marvel movie, but that's another story. Cheech Martin, from Cheech and Meringue, Cheech Martin and Tommy Chong, Cheech and Marin, so Cheech and Chong. Like, he's famous, so it's nice to see him in a character actor in this thing, and Ernie Hudson, who's from Ghostbusters and plenty of other projects. You're like, wow, it's a good cast. Caitlin Olsen wasn't horrible in this movie, but she's the least funniest person from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So it's nice she's in a movie. And then the other guy, Matt Cook, I think his name is, it's nice to see him in a movie or anything because he was Lyle on Man with a Plan, which was that Matt LeBlanc Kevin Nealon, Stacy Keach show, and he was one of the other characters, and it's good to see him in this. But it's like, again, I'm obsessed with watching sports movies. So it's about a guy who used to be a college coach. Things didn't work out well. He's in some junior league in middle of nowhere in Iowa, and instead of like going to prison, they give him the opportunity that he's got to coach for 90 days this Special Olympics basketball team, and he doesn't even know what the words are. You say the R word, special needs people, mentally challenged people. Cheech Martin just runs the building. Ernie Hudson is the guy who is his friend and gave him a job in the first place. Matt Cook joins him on the staff. Caitlin Olsen, they write interesting writing, how she goes from just a fling to being a part of the movie. And again, 2 hours is not a long time for a comedy. For me, it's like an hour 50. They had a video montage of music in the end. It has a good ending for him. That seems great. So I liked it. I enjoyed it. In spite of me not being a huge Woody Harrelson or Caitlin Olsen fan, and Ernie Hudson and Cheech Martin and Matt Cook playing a role, it's really the mentally challenged people who are in the movie pretending to be other people. Like, they did a good job of acting, so I gotta give them all the credit whatsoever. But again, gonna get these movie reviews on par every week, so I'm consistent and you can see what's going on. So I will tell you this. I think the best movie I watched was The Covenant, based on from beginning to end. You really want to pay attention to this movie. I love sports movies, but also biopics. You learned a lot about George Foreman, and this Chris Davis did a guy did great. Champions is another sports movie, but it's a dramedy. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of funniness. It's a underdog, heartwarming story, and it grows on you. And then, of course, 80 for Brady is a comedy adventure where you just go on the ride with famous actors Louis Tama, Jane Fonda, Rita Moreno, and Sally Field, and famous people playing themselves or somewhat versions of themselves. The only movie I would not suggest to watch is One Day as a Lion. And I want to go back to, I got the blockbuster films like The Covenant, big-time movies like Champions, 80 for Brady, Big George Foreman, and then I get a small offset movie that it might have famous people like J.K. Simmons, Frank Grillo, and Scott Conn, Virginia Madsen, but no one's heard of it, and that's what I really want to be doing. So again, thanks for listening to another edition of Movie Reviews Not Finished from 176. For On the Radar Tape Blog, I'm Radar. See you guys next time.